I've prepared this timeline which deals with key events which have happened throughout 2017. You'll see there 2017, 2018, 19 and 20. I've highlighted certain issues in red to bring those to your attention. What I want to do is, one, draw to your attention these key events which have happened, principally, for example, with the Grenfell fire in June 2017 in London, which unfortunately resulted in the loss of some 75 lives. That followed began a series of government responses, both at a federal and at a state level for each state government, where they began to investigate building product safety. So this result was really the genesis of the investigations. Those, of course, were really preceded by an investigation by Michael Lambert, who prepared a report commissioned by the New South Wales Government in 2015 concerning regulation, inspections and appropriate licensing of various building industry officials. That, I think, has set the tone for the last 3 or 4 years, investigation and compliance enforcement issues in New South Wales and how the government has responded. So we have this issue in 2017, a serious fire in Grenfell. We then have in December 17, the New South Wales Government introducing the Building Products Safety Act to ban unsafe building products, principally to capture such things as aluminium composite panelling. That has certainly been found in the preliminary investigation stages through the Grenfell fire in the United Kingdom to have played a significant part in the spread of the fire and loss of life. Going down the page, looking through the events of 2018, one of the principal issues that has emerged is the preparation of a report prepared by Bronwyn Weir and Peter Shergold concerning the Building Confidence Report. That was really an attempt to try to understand and bring to light, make a series of recommendations concerning better compliance, enforcement and registration of building practitioners across Australia. New South Wales Government has responded to that by preparing its response. For example, in August 18, we have the preparation of a ban by the New South Wales Government concerning aluminium composite panelling of more than 30% by mass. So that, I think, is one of the New South Wales Government's responses to issues with unsafe or defective building products. Further on in New South Wales, at the bottom of the page, I've highlighted the La Crosse building in Melbourne. The builder there was L.U. Simon, and those proceedings began in 2018 in relation to a fire which happened at that building in 2015 and resulted in significant damage to the building and unfortunately no loss of life, but that resulted in a subsequent court case which we'll briefly consider. In December 2018, another significant event which brings to the public attention the issue with defective building and building design and product relates to the Opal Olympic Park building, where the builder, it seems from the subsequent investigations through experts commissioned by New South Wales Government, through the University of New South Wales, discovering building defects and engineering and design issues in the Opal Tower. The last word on it, I think, is that that building is occupied, but the builder, I think, spent in excess of $20 million trying to rectify a series of those particular issues. So again, this is just another signpost of an important event which has brought to the public attention issues with the building and construction industry. In 2019, a couple of key events occurred. I've highlighted there a fire which happened in February 2015 to the Neo 200 building in Melbourne. The builder there was L.U. Simon. So here we have the same builder as was found in La Crosse building. Neo 200 was a fire which involved where there was involvement of aluminium composite panelling, was said to be the not the cause of the fire, but at least regarded as almost like an accelerant because of the aluminium composite panelling that had been constructed. 25 days later, on the 28th of February 2019, we have a significant judgment from the La Crosse fire, and that was prepared by Justice Woodward from the Victorian Civil Administrative Tribunal. His judgment was a landmark decision. What that found was that the builder, LU Simon, had breached the Building Code of Australia. It was also found to be in breach of the building regulations, and it had been responsible for the choice of the aluminium composite panelling. That said, the judge found that the builder, LU Simon, had not failed to exercise reasonable care. What makes the decision a landmark one is that it really is one of the first decisions in Australia which deal with the effect of the aluminium composite panelling. The judge found on the issue of proportionate liability that the surveyor, the architect and the engineer, fire engineer, were responsible for, or each played a part in the aluminium composite panelling and the cause of the fire. Ultimately, the judge handed down a decision of damages in excess of 5.7 million in favour of the owners' corporation. The balance of the claim, and what he did was he apportioned liability between those three other parties. That decision is the subject of an appeal in the Victorian Court of Appeal. It was meant to have been heard in June, or foreshadowed to be. I've been trying to keep a tab on the hearings of it, but thus far not found it. But that will be an important landmark. Turning our attention to the current times in 2020, where, and which we will be discussing today, those two pieces of legislation. We have the Design and Practitioners Bill, which was introduced in October 2019. That has now become an Act and ascended to on the 11th of June this year. And then we have the Residential Apartment Buildings Compliance and Enforcement Powers Act. It's quite a mouthful to say, was ascended to on the 10th of June. That is a far-reaching piece of legislation which we'll discuss. So I think we can see that the events of the last 3 or 4 years have been significant in terms of how the landscape has changed, not in New South Wales but in Australia, in terms of registration of relevant parties, compliance and enforcement, and at government having their response, which is designed to try to provide increased consumer safety and also recompense in terms of what damages would be available if there is a finding of various design defects in design and or construction. This slide deals with the issues of the findings from the New South Wales Legislative Council through its Public Accountability Committee, which has considered recommendations leading to the passing of these two pieces of legislation which we're going to consider. Before it decided to, or just reaching its decision in terms of passing legislation and considering debate on the two pieces of, or the two acts which we're considering, the Public Accountability Committee took a number of soundings and hearings from public stakeholders. I've summarised those findings there, but they're not particularly favourable, probably not unknown, in terms of there being deep structural failings with the New South Wales construction industry, a lack of consistency in registration and licensing by various practitioners in New South Wales. We have problems with phoenixing and liquidation of both builders and developers in New South Wales, which has caused a lack of recompense for consumers and parties that are landowners, principally people who have invested life savings and are either landowners and or investors who have been found to be without recompense. There's finding also that unprincipled developers have set up their regime of developing land, selling it, then deregistering the companies that they have done that, and they've also found that the New South Wales regulator responsible to registrate, to licence and consider the ongoing registration of various parties has not been doing its job. A lack of transparency and visibility in terms of understanding what's being built, when it was built, the parties that are involved, and also seeking to enable proper recovery, finding that many times the key documents such as construction drawings and plans, the identities of the parties that have carried out building, the identities of the developers who've played a part in financing the various projects are not clear. For example, I've had a number of cases where we're acting, for example, for owners' corporations in large developments, that various key documents concerning the plans and drawings have been kept by an owners' corporation committee. On the change of the committee, the member has, or the particular committee person, has decided to throw out various pieces of those key documents and drawings, which has severely hampered the subsequent owners in trying to seek adequate recompense and recovery. These are some of the issues that have been found by the New South Wales Legislative Council. The last issue that I want to comment on in this particular slide relates to the issue of insurance. Without adequate insurance, such as home warranty insurance or professional indemnity insurance, there is no functioning system to provide a backup or a safety net for people who have suffered loss as a result of defective building product and or defective design. So these two pieces of legislation are designed to try to supplement these shortcomings in the industry.